The Sunday box office numbers for Captain Marvel are out, and it has dropped down 55% from week 1 to week 2. That's exactly in line with what I said it would do a couple of days ago in my previous video. It did about 19 million on Friday, it did around about 30 million on Saturday, and they've got about 20 million for Sunday, although they have to be estimates because obviously Sunday hasn't actually finished yet, so I'm not sure why they actually have Sunday figures out at the moment. But they are projecting 20 million for Sunday, so a $70 million weekend all up, taking the total to $266 million, and it opened at about $155 million, so down 55%. So if we look at a couple of the comparisons, we've got some of the more recent Marvel films. You can see that Captain Marvel is doing better than Thor Ragnarok. It should certainly beat Thor Ragnarok's total domestic box office for US. I think it's actually above what Ant-Man and the Wasp made in total, so it's definitely beat Ant-Man and the Wasp. And obviously it's nowhere near Avengers Infinity War, and it's going to be nowhere near Black Panther, but they're the more recent Marvel ones. The main thing to look for is not so much the totals, but what the angle is moving at. So you can see that the current angle on the Captain Marvel green bar, it's a little bit worse than where the blue and the red lines were for Black Panther and Avengers. So it isn't going to catch them, but it's also getting a little bit slower as well. So it's slowing down a bit more than those two, and it's obviously doing a lot better than Thor Ragnarok. Now, two films that still remain very good to compare Captain Marvel to are Iron Man 3 and Captain America Civil War. Not only do they have quite a similar box office amount earned to date, they also have a somewhat similar angle. Captain Marvel's doing a little bit worse, but we can use the Iron Man 3 and Captain America numbers to come up with some pretty good projections for where Captain Marvel should end up, because the trend looks to be nearly identical between these three films. Another good reason that these two films are good to compare Captain Marvel to is because all three of them have around about the same percentage of money being earned in the international box office. So, in theory, if Captain Marvel's US domestic total moves pretty similar to Iron Man and Captain America Civil War, then its international numbers may move quite similar to what their international numbers were as well. So, from that, we can probably take it that Captain Marvel will get sort of somewhere near what Captain America did overseas, but not quite as high as what Captain America did in total. And the other good comparison to keep looking at is the Batman vs. Superman and the Wonder Woman compared to Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is marginally ahead of Batman vs. Superman right now. I think Batman vs. Superman was on around about 260 million at this stage, and Captain Marvel's on about 266 million, or it's around about 1 to 2 days in front now, Captain Marvel. So mainly because Batman vs. Superman just completely died after the first week of box office, I suppose, after the reviews came out. But yeah, Captain Marvel will definitely beat Batman vs. Superman in the US domestic box office. It's also beating Wonder Woman, which is still to be expected, and that in no way means that it will beat Wonder Woman. I still think Wonder Woman is on track to defeat Captain Marvel at the US box office total, but Captain Marvel does have a good lead at the moment. Wonder Woman actually had a very abnormal type of run. It had a run somewhat similar to Titanic, not anywhere near as good as Titanic, but it just kept going and going and going and didn't have a spectacular start. So now that the Sunday numbers for the second week are out, we can make a very accurate prediction. I think it'll make $382 million. Yes, I'll say it down to the million. $382 million for the Captain Marvel total US domestic box office proceeds. Wonder Woman made $412 million, and as I said in my previous video, it is not on track to beat that, and now I'm more certain than ever that Captain Marvel will not defeat Wonder Woman's total of the US domestic box office. On Monday, I would estimate that Captain Marvel will probably make somewhere about $4.5 million to $5.5 million. That's probably a 75 to 80% reduction, so that will be in line with most of the other films. And the 55% reduction for Captain Marvel, that's not abnormally large. It's nowhere near as bad as things like Suicide Squad or Batman vs. Superman, but it's pretty similar to what Iron Man 3 did, and it's a little bit better than what Captain America Civil War actually did. So 55%. It's a very large drop, but it's not. It's a fairly usual drop for these very, very, very large budget films. So far, all of the numbers for Captain Marvel are basically coming in on the low end of what is to be expected with their opening day. So the 61 million that it took in on the Friday, although that's sort of Thursday and Friday, that 61 million, what it's done from there on has been fairly easy to predict. Well, not easy to predict, but it's come true to the predictions. So it's on the low end of what a film could do with a $61 million opening day, and that's where it is right now. It's going to make a big load of money, but it's not going to beat Wonder Woman. At least I don't think it will. So we'll see if the Sunday projected official numbers are correct and it does get $20 million or something very close to that. And again, I think it'll get about $4.5 to $5.5 million on Monday, and I think it'll make $382 million in total for the US domestic box office. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.